What is going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dogs, cats, not clowns? If you're a clown and you're tuned in, please reach out to me. Let me know who you root for, what team you root for, because I will tweet it, because that will make a funny joke down the line. But we are back with another episode of the Schoch Factor Podcast, where I am joined by the ever beautiful, the effervescent Jordan Shusterman and Jake Mintz. How are you guys doing today?
I do not feel even the slightest bit effervescent. However, Steve, nice word. Very well done. And I must ask, though, Jordan, I can see this rattling around in your brain, my dear friend. Steve, what do you have against clowns, man?
Nothing against them. Nothing against them. It's just the line of work. It's like, hey, look at that clown. You know? So it's like, what team do you root for? It's like,
Those
hey, look at that clown who likes this. Yeah. And it's like, literally. And that's fine. You know? It's a profession. It's just for that joke. I just don't think they tune into me because they're like, look at this poser clown. He's just like half foot in.
Right. Like, oh, Steve, what a clown! Like in a positive way, right?
Exactly,
in a complimentary way.
And like people looking. I know I don't have makeup on, but the eclipse just happened, so a lot of people probably aren't watching this right now because of that, and we'll get into it later. But Jordan, you were saying?
No, it's good. Vocab and fuego on this Tuesday morning. Another morning edition of the Schoch Factor Podcast. Now, Jake, you were not with us last week. Excited to have you back. Excited to kind of catch you up on some of the D1 baseball happenings.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Do you see this news trickling in?
Yeah.
Do you see this?
What do we got?
The NCAA just announced that I think half of the games today and tomorrow are canceled because over 1,000 D1 college baseball players stared at the sun yesterday. They were told not to stare at the sun. And they believed that they just had that dog in them. I think
that was the problem is that the NCAA told them not to, and they were like, well, screw them. Like,
there's no NIL money for staring at the sun, boys.
Look, there's no way for the SEC, the Federal Trade Commission, to track this staring at the sun. The NCAA cannot federally track me like they could if I'm placing bets on myself. So it's like, hey, look. I gotta scratch this itch of being a rule breaker. Stare at the sun.
Brad Bohannon's friend in Ohio told me that you were staring at the sun.
I texted him and said, hey, can you stare at the sun for me just to keep my hands clean? I was just like, hey, I know it's
my eyes clean.
You're in the clear. You're in the clear, Steve.
He was sending me a text describing it, and the text just got worse and worse as it went on. So I know he was really doing it.
Well, Jake, despite your wonderful joke, busy slate here, midweek slate on Tuesday.
Busy slate.
But we'll see. We'll keep an eye on some of these box scores. You know, if certain team, you know, if San Jose State for some reason is playing against Arkansas today, already not an easy assignment. But you know, if they, you know, strike out 25 times, you know, it might not just be Arkansas's pitching. You know, they might have been staring at the sun a little bit too hard. Anyway, okay, so we'll work in some more Eclipse chat since I was hashtag blessed enough to be in the path of totality and enjoyed it in full. But Steve, let's talk about college baseball because that is what we.
You know who seems to be in the path of totality, as in totality falling off the top 25 is LSU.
Well, they actually. Oh, I thought you were. I wasn't sure if you were going to Florida or LSU there. I guess we can start there. So we're going to keep it broad at the top. We're going to do some Golden Spikes chat. We'll do some moments. We'll do our players and pitchers a week later. But yeah, Jake, as you kind of, you know, come up for air here and check in on D1 baseball as we enter we're past the midway point at this point, guys. I mean, we're rolling here. The LSU Tigers are not in the top 25. The defending national champions have fallen officially out of the rankings. And how did we get here, Steve? What has happened to LSU? I mean, the basic answer is they lost a home series to Vanderbilt a week after getting swept by Arkansas, a week after losing a series to Florida, a week after losing a series to Mississippi State. There's your answer. They have yet to win an SEC series yet, and that's not going to keep you in the rankings. So that's the short answer. But Steve, do you have anything else to add to catch Jake up on the Tigers?
Yeah, I think what the Tigers have at least done well is they've kept their toes in the game. You know, they've gotten a win each weekend. They've avoided getting swept most weekends. I don't know if they've had a SEC weekend where they've been swept.
Yeah,
but
Arkansas.
They have.
Arkansas. But that's a sledgehammer. That's you can pencil.
Steve,
that
I need you to raise your bar. I need you to raise your bar respectfully. I need you to raise your bar,
especially for LSU.
No.
Oh, they're gonna get swept in the SEC. Like that is not the standard.
That's what you say about.
No, it's not the standard.
Not as good teams.
It's not the standard by any means, but what I'm saying is they have done a good job of not absolutely cooking their season. Mm-hmm. If they do it for another week, another 2 weeks, I can't say that again. But it's just so interesting. This week, of course, they had their phones taken away, which is always so funny. They had a new rule put in place where you can't have your phone in the locker room or around the facility, which makes total sense. Like, hey, show up to the field, be with your boys. Multiple schools I went to had similar policies. One school.
This was reported. Yes, Steve. So I believe this was reported that Jay Johnson was doing a bit of a these damn kids are on their phones too much crackdown.
Yes.
Going into the week, right? I think.
Mm-hmm. And it was just like they had become a distraction in the locker room. Too many guys probably on Twitter like, hey, what's Big Donkey saying? But no, that definitely wasn't it. But I've been on teams where we had the no phone policy, where we didn't have the no phone policy. The team that went to Omaha was a no phone policy, but also it was COVID and the locker room was all over the place. So it was very weird to begin with, and phones were flying. But either way, the phones got taken away, and it seemed like the focus was back. It really did. And then, the third game of the weekend happened, and that happens, and we just wash and forget about it if we're the LSU Tigers.
You know, when I was playing for Columbia in the 1930s and 40s, we had a 4 years of the no phone policy. No one had a phone.
How much did you win?
Had a house phone.
Did it work?
Yeah, we went to 8 straight Ivy League championship series with the Lions. And then I love the idea of like a team in like the 80s, like the briefcase cell phone that people used to have. Just like a full college baseball team like rolling in a locker room with the briefcase, cracking it open, and it's just like the old school mobile phone. I think this is hilarious. Jay Johnson, I trust more than most people to make a baseball team good. I don't think LSU is losing because of the phones, because of the tick and the talk. I think that they are losing because they're not respecting the Lord's Day, guys. LSU has been abominable on Sundays. Okay. Now, that is not totally shocking given their lack of starting pitching depth that we've seen from them last year, right? Like that was a legit concern, was like, who's their 3 starter? Do they have enough arms to make it through the postseason? And guess what? Spoilers, they did, because they won. But this year I believe they've gotten mercy rule losses on Sundays twice or 3 times. So this week they lost to Vandy 13-3 on Saturday, which was basically their Sunday game. I'm going to call it Sunday because it was their 3rd game of the series. Mm-hmm. They lost to Arkansas 7-5 on their 3rd game of the series. They lost to Florida 12-2 on their 3rd game of the series. They lost to Mississippi State 15-5 on their 3rd game of the series. Right. That's bad, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of, we've already talked about how the 3rd game, even in the SEC, the 3rd games of these series are just like a different sport, because of how thin some of these pitching staffs are, and you just have total unpredictability. But you would think for a team like LSU that they would be able to with the offensive talent that they have, that they would be able to slug their way to a win in one of these series finales, and they just haven't. And obviously, they're now sitting at 3-9, which is the same record as Ole Miss, who respectfully, or I guess disrespectfully, I believe is the worst team in the league. Now, again, the path ahead for LSU is not – listen, there's no easy SEC path. But they're going to Tennessee this weekend. So you say, Steve, they got to turn it around soon. I mean, you're right. And I don't know when exactly that's going to happen. And, a couple, 5 days ago, we would have said, okay, well, the good thing is that after Tennessee, they get to go to Missouri. oh, I don't want to be rolling up to Como anytime soon. Those boys are bopping. Those boys are just whooped Florida's ass. So suddenly the road ahead for LSU. Listen, their schedule's been ridiculous, but that's everyone in this league. So at some point you can't just say yes. Oh no, what are you gonna do? Same thing with Auburn. Same thing with Ole Miss. Like you can only shrug it off so often because at some point you're going to run out of wins that you're going to be able to get, no matter how many teams they're going to try and squeeze into this tournament.
Exactly. And you hit the nail on the head when you're running into the buzzsaw that is the Missouri Tigers. I mean, talk about an impressive weekend for the fellas, taking down Florida, which, this has been an eye-opening weekend in the rankings, I feel like, where a lot has changed in terms of at D1 baseball. We have looked at it, or I'm assuming they have looked at it and said, all right, it's time to come to grips with what is happening in front of us and where the LSU Tigers and where Florida is at this moment in this juncture, where they're a very talented team, but are they playing like a top 10, top 25 team, top 50 team? It's one of those situations where they're in a bit of a skid. And so that was just eye-opening. Also, I cannot get over the idea of a coach having his 1940s team and going, hey guys, no more briefcase cell phones, and the whole team just going, oh, thank God, that thing is 30 pounds. Like the relief of okay, that workout was good. Was that our Omaha challenge? Yeah. Was that our Kalamazoo? Was it Kalamazoo?
It was briefly. Nice shout out.
Good job, Steve.
Good work.
There we go. We got some history in here.
So here's the deal, right? So Missouri, I mean, there are some crazy games in here. It looked like Florida was going to come back and win that series finale, and then they choke it away late. Cag's doing all he can, and we'll talk about Cags a little bit later. I mean, he's certainly doing his part. But we're looking at a situation now where they have, I guess this isn't just SEC play, but Florida's got a 5.88 ERA, which is the second worst in the conference, barely ahead of Auburn, and Ole Miss is right there. Now, Missouri's got a 5.33 ERA, but like they can kind of pitch. They have actually had some really strong pitching performances. The problem is that their offense statistically is like so far and away the worst in the league that is why they have struggled. But hey, they were hitting the ball around this weekend. And I remember last year, right, when Missouri, I think it was last year, if not 2 years ago, when they kind of had that hot start, they had a couple home series wins, and we were like, all right, like the talent maybe isn't anywhere close to the same as the rest of it, but it's like they kind of got some spice when they're playing in Columbia, Missouri in the SEC. Like, I feel like it's such a like weird energy to like watch games there and be like, this is the SEC. And I have a feeling that throws some teams off.
Oh, definitely. And Missouri loves company, and it just absolutely pulled Florida in with it. But
Missouri loves company, Steve?
Missouri loves the Midwest. I get lost when I start thinking about the map, so I'm going to try to avoid doing that.
Careful.
But
Steve,
it is a fun place to play, though.
Can we have you do the state capitals at some point?
We could do that at some point, but I do better when it's more like, hey, what's the most popular fast food chain by state? Like, I'm more the BuzzFeed maps. Those are my state,
not the actual maps.
Yeah. By the way, I don't know if you guys know this, but North Dakota is the state most likely to be mater from cars, according to BuzzFeed.
Got it.
I don't know if you know that, but the state capital, I'm lost on that one.
Steve, what's the SEC team most likely to be mater from cars?
Oh my goodness, the West. But either way, I do want to talk about another SEC series that got very interesting. Was Georgia versus Mississippi State, where the baseball happened, but the show, the spectacle. Now, Jake, this was kind of an unavoidable clip. Did you see anything from this game?
Yeah.
Did you?
So I saw that people were yelling. Mm-hmm. I saw people had really big beliefs about this. I would like someone to explain this to me like I'm an idiot, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so big thoughts. What is happening is there's a ball hit and we have an outfield assist, which very cool. We love outfield assists. Georgia's Dylan Carter, he's their center fielder, transferred from Texas Tech this offseason in the portal, is rounding third base.
How did he get there?
He went into the portal. If you go to Barnes and Noble in the sci-fi section, if you sneeze really loud 3 times and then run into the bookshelf, it takes you there. Not many people know that, but as a guy who's been there, it's how it works. But so he is rounding. He's rounding third base. He gets thrown out by like a good 15 steps, slides into home. There's not really like a good way. I've never understood. Like, are you supposed to say, hello, excuse me, may I step to your left, Mr. Catcher, to get to the plate? I've never understood how, like, anyone's ever surprised when there's contact, because it's like the one physical play in baseball, except for, in college baseball where we got guys randomly, like, just running into each other because everybody wants the ball. And no one's worried about getting hurt in a pro contract. Like, well, now, it's changing. But either way, he's diving into the plate, gets a little bit of Johnny Long's knee, it looks like, and Johnny Long tags him out. Johnny Long is Mississippi State's catcher. And then after the play, he gets a little bit more Johnny Long's knee. It appears to be 3 more times he gets Johnny Long's knee. And it was just a weird situation. I get getting very intense in the moment, especially I can't imagine how intense I would be after someone ran into me. I'm more of a talk guy. I'm not really going to hit someone on the field because it's like I still got baseball to play. But bench is kind of clear. It's a situation where no one is sitting on the bench. My definition of bench is clear is not a brawl. It's not a fight. It is people walking out onto the field, moving from the bench. That is as simple as it can be. I've never said bench is clear and been referring to fisticuffs. If I'm referring to fisticuffs, you will hear fisticuffs. And the tweet will probably say, holy shit, what is going on? Someone figure it out. But either way, we got a bench is clear. And then the umpires go, you know what? This was a debacle. How could we make this worse?
Time out.
45-minute wet rag.
I'm watching this now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I think it's a pretty simple, like the play itself is pretty simple to me. The runner begins his dive into home really like as the catcher catches the ball. And so by that point, the die is cast. Like the runner is trying to get out of the way. The runner is going to be out. The runner in this situation, in my opinion, is a 100,000% blameless, right?
I'm with you.
And I understand the catcher being hyped up. He probably takes it a little too far, I think, in my opinion. Like standing over somebody. I understand that he's kind of, but then like, why does this turn into anything else? Okay. I think every other person in this situation actually acts relatively responsibly.
Bingo.
Except for the catcher. Like this does not boil over into violence or something that is embarrassing or over the top. We see this like once a week in the big leagues, right? Like guys are all getting together. They're rubbing chests up against each other, and then they disperse to their various dugouts, right?
And so 100%. And so what happened was that the most obvious way to handle this, and listen, obviously we're going to be defending players showing emotion, but like you could have very reasonably just tossed the catcher for like the chirp, whatever. You're going to get, it's the 3rd out of the inning. It's a tie game. It's the 8th inning. It's an SEC series. Like get excited because you made the tag. That's great. Stepping over him and, so if you want to eject him for that, great. Eject Johnny Long and move on, right? It wouldn't have been that complicated. Instead, what happened was because by him stepping over him, that at least prompted guys to come out of the dugout but basically everybody that came out of the dugout from both sides seemed to be immediately trying to make sure nothing else was going to happen. But because there are all these rules about the very explicit, like if you move from your assigned seat, you will go to NCAA jail for however many days, right? What happened was first they review the play to, I guess, see if it was like obstruction or some sort of issue at home. No. And then they're like, well, while we're here, let's spend literally 40 minutes trying to see if anybody had some egregious acts.
What is the point of this? Like, here's what I am frustrated about. Yeah. And this is just in regards to the NCAA and umpiring. And I understand, like, umps have rules that they are being told to follow, right? And so I struggle to be too critical towards them, though they should read between the lines. What is the goal of all this?
Right.
Okay. Why are we playing the baseball here? Okay. It is for entertainment. And the truth is important. Yes, maybe more so, I'll give you that, than at the professional level, because these are kids and we are, even still, they are young adults. We are trying to instill whatever good values and sportsmanship, blah, freaking blah, right? That being said, there is no circumstance in which it should take 45 minutes to determine anything. At that point, after 10 minutes, it should be, we're done. If no one is going to the hospital, like, this game is being restarted.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, and that was just the last thing, Steve, and then you can kind of wrap this up. It's just like, that's what was so ridiculous, is it was hard to tell. And now, by the way, we should say, thankfully, the NCAA came to their senses the next day. Now, it didn't undo the debacle that was this game, because they did eject a ton of people from both teams, which resulted in Cal Steven making the last out of the game because he was playing left field. We had two guys. The game ended with Mississippi State having two guys getting their first collegiate at bat in like a massive SEC series. So it was both awesome and like so stupid that I was like, I hope this does not actually matter for either of these teams, which it very well might. Like, let's be honest, right? Like, again, good win for Georgia, and it's not that they didn't earn it, but still, it was just so stupid. Thankfully, they did not suspend anybody else for the next day or anything beyond that, beyond Johnny Long. But to your point, what I still don't understand is, were the umpires on the field the ones that were holding the play? Then we're saying we have to go over this? Or for some reason, was it people that were in the area saying, no, we have to review and make sure that there aren't any horribly dangerous, violent people still standing on the baseball field, which was obviously not the case.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I want to say it was the people away, because if there were like 10,000 people there. If I am standing there, 10,000 people are yelling at me to do something. Look, I'm not a pushover, but damn it, I will. I will. But the delay, I think they said it took 40 minutes because the third base umpire was having a really tough time cutting out the pictures of Mississippi State's lineup to tape onto Colonel Mustard and Professor Plum and all them, so they could get their game of Clue done, so they could figure out who to eject. But as a player, one very important point: just wear a hoodie. Wear a hoodie all the time. I would not have been ejected from this game because I would have been in a hoodie. That's a fact.
Steve runs out of the field, like no one could see his eyes. Ski mask behavior. I get it.
Yeah, just simple stuff. So but it's so dumb, because I guarantee you at least one person probably got tossed that was on the field talking with someone on the other team that like they played summer ball with, and they were just like, yo, what's up, man? Like, I guarantee you that conversation was happening more than it was like, hey, man, get Johnny to calm down. It was more like, what's up? We're out here. But honestly, good on the NCAA, because I have been thinking about this for a long time. Any game tied after the seventh, instead of the, ghost runner on second rule or anything like that, I think it should be determined by, hey, take your whole lineup out and put in pitchers. We're going to see, what can your pitchers do? You want to make it entertaining. I was locked in. Cal Stevens have that was like the most locked in I've been for anything in my life. I was like, all right, magic is about to happen. Strike out. Okay, maybe not.
I was like, this could be the coolest thing I ever see. But then as soon as you struck out, I was like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Like, how did this determine an important SEC game? Like, so.
Because he's just doing so well in right field.
I'm just going to say this. That win, and again, this is not to take anything away from Georgia, because like they played well that game and like they have showed that like they are pretty legit. That win could get Georgia into the tournament. There is a version where Georgia is like the 10th or 11th team from the SEC that gets in, and it's because Cal Steven, a pitcher from Purdue, had to hit in the bottom of the ninth of a 1-run game. Like, I don't even. Anyway, so that part, I feel like that part is not being made enough of. Like, that is absurd.
I just want to, before we take a break and move on, I want to give credit to the players and the coaches in this circumstance for not letting it boil over even more than it did. Like, no, if you watched the high home, like the bird's eye view, camera shot, both coaching staffs are like yelling at their players, waving them to get back into their dugouts out of their respective sides so that it doesn't get worse. And like, in my mind, that's good leadership, right? Like, that's
and the
point of this. And I think
kind of do.
The players listen. And like, in my head, this is a textbook example of one player getting too hyped, causing a situation, and it de-escalating in a perfect way. And so for the NCAA and the umpires in this on the field to turn this into something where it shouldn't have been anything, they made it the problem. Right? Don't ask me about the benches clearing situation T-shirt.
Well, this is the last thought. Then we're going to giblets, and then we're going to golden spikes. Is my God, if it took 40 minutes to sort this nothing burger out, imagine if there was an actual fight. We would have been there till 5 a.m. I mean, there's no like. It would have been, if this is how unprepared you are to deal with this level of incident, then like that's what concerned me really, because it can be a lot worse. But
all I'll close with is Colby Branch hit a walk-off grand slam for Georgia earlier this season, and a home run trot probably takes 20, 30 seconds. Before he even got to home plate, umpires had decided to eject him for his egregious and heinous actions, where I still am trying to sort through what he did. I don't really understand it, but it's like the Crucible. It's weird, but we're going to move on because we don't want to talk about people getting dishonorably discharged from games. We don't want to talk about people getting dishonorably discharged from anything, because here at the Schoch Factor Podcast, we're friends with the Soldiers and we love them, and particularly Soldier Sports. Have you guys heard of the Soldier Tank BB Core baseball bat by chance by Soldier Sports?
Thanks to you.
Okay, well, Jake, we need you to listen. Okay, man. Did your ears look at the Eclipse? Just briefly, because if they did, you might not have heard about it.
I'm not sure how to answer
anyway, this isn't just any bat. It's lighter and hotter than any of its predecessors, and this is thanks to its infused power alloy technology that creates an ultra big, ultra hot sweet spot. Crafted from over 2.5 years of research and development, the Soldier Tank is the perfect blend of speed and power, designed for both power and contact hitters. It features a formula for success. Speed times mass times impact equals extreme power. And by that math, impact times mass times speed also equals extreme power. That's the transitive property, kids. If you're a child and you're listening to this, you just learned math. Good for you.
I think that's the quadratic formula.
Yeah, no, Newton used that to calculate apples as well. So that's vertical break of the apples came from that formula. But I've seen it swung. Even the mishits have juice with the Soldier Tank. The bat's priced at an incredible $311, which is well worth it to swing the top scoring BB Core bat ever. They're selling out fast though, so head over to soldiersports.us to secure yours today. Thanks, Soldier Sports.
Thank you, Steve. Steve, I guess we already hit it on them, but we don't want to skip a giblet tickle.
Oh yes.
Who? I mean, it's got to be Mizzou, right? It's got to be.
Yeah. Yep. Gonna pick Missouri. Playing in Columbia is a strange place. We got absolutely waxed there, but very, very interesting place. It's a fun ballpark to have success in, and watching them sweep Florida was strange. If you put that on my bingo card at the start of the year, I'd say, okay, blank space, just like Taylor Swift. But yeah, they swept them, and that was really cool to see.
Yeah, and I just want to give a shout out to their lefty reliever Ryan Magdick. Do we know how it's pronounced? Madge.
I don't think it's Magdick.
Probably not. But is he?
I got the magic.
What is it? Just magic? Is it more Slovenian? Anyway, Magdic. You let me know. He is a 23-year-old left-hander who was a Division II position player last year. And now he is a ridiculously impressive relief arm lefty throwing 95. So not sure what took him so long to figure out he should be throwing with his left hand as much as possible. But he is a very, very good pitcher. So Missouri has a few pitchers I really like watching. So good for them. All right, Steve, let's fly through some moments. Let's fly through some highlight moments, and then we'll circle back to Golden Spikes.
Let's take us through.
Take us through. Go right ahead.
All right, so we're going to start off with Lane Hayworth hitting his first collegiate bomb. Now, this isn't just a normal home run. It is a home run that is hit to the warning track, and the South Florida right fielder kind of loses it in the sun. Important to note, no Eclipse is happening at this moment. It's just kind of happening. And it hits off his glove, goes over the fence, which is just an awesome moment. But it's Lane Hayworth's first collegiate home run for Wichita State. So just a really cool way to get it done. And I want to point out USF's right fielder did have some other impressive plays during the game. This was just a silly moment. He's not a bad player. The team did tag me in a double play where he made the diving catch and threw it. Or I don't know if he got the out on the diving play. But either way, it was very funny. And they go, we like this one better. And I was like,
this is
well played.
Totally fair. And this is a situation where this has shockingly happened so frequently where it's if this happens to you, it's going to get shared. I'm sorry. It's 2024. It's one of the goofier genre of highlights you will have no matter what. It's nothing personal, but it is nice to see that he could bounce back from that quickly. But congrats to Lane Hayworth on home run number 1.
Yeah, the next moment we have comes from an exciting matchup between Georgia State and Georgia, where Georgia State tweeted this highlight where it's Dylan Metella strikes out the nation's leading hitter, Charlie Condon, which to be so good that just striking out one time, it's like, oh my God, we did it. That says something. And we'll talk about him, but
this is big Ohtani energy where big league teams will go out of their way to post striking out Ohtani. Ohtani strikes out a good bit, so it's funny. And Condon also strikes out a decent amount. So it's you're so right. It is the ultimate sign of respect where it's any sort of positive thing we can do against this unbelievably famous player deserves its own clip.
It's like they might have as well have just said, hey, Blake just got a strikeout that he's going to tell his kids about.
This reminds me of during the WBC when it was the Great Britain. It was this guy started out
the Czech team or the Czech team facing Japan. Yeah.
That's this energy.
It's the same thing. Anyway, Blake Burke is the home run king of Tennessee Volunteers. Joe Healy has talked about this on a few D1 baseball podcasts. It is kind of a hard thing to fathom that Blake Burke, who didn't even play, he didn't even start every game as a freshman, is now the all-time home run leader in Tennessee history. It doesn't totally compute, but then you watch him and it's oh yeah, duh.
And then what we got to think about is he is the all-time home run leader in history, maybe for another week, depending on what Christian Moore does, because he's at 40. So their graphics team is going to they are in a position of prime opportunity where Christian, where they just cut out and do funny little bad edits, I think would be hilarious. Where it's okay, it's Blake on the graphic. Okay, Christian just had a 2 home run game. He passed him. We're just going to copy and paste a picture, kind of cross him out, put Christian. I'm excited.
So this home run, I have to say, do you have it up, Jordan?
Yes.
This home run, to me, with all due respect to Blake Burke, is perfectly. It's a great example of where we're at with the balls and the bats and the fly. He hits it oppo and doesn't move. We should never if you hit one oppo, it should never be enough of a no doubter to walk down.
I agree.
95 on the black.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks. However, Blake Burke has stupid juice, and
he's kind of his own thing.
I would argue that he is probably being underrated at this point. He's only striking out 15% of the time. and that was 30% as a freshman.
And it is the most aesthetically pleasing swing I have ever seen.
It is real smooth. But like I guess the point being that like he's not just like a total show BP hitter, right? Like he knows what he's doing. Again, he's obviously just a first baseman, but he's gonna be a rich man in a few months.
I'm gonna do something that pertains to your other job, but it's like if you gave, an ounce of athleticism to Adam Dunn, you get Blake Burke. Or you just give a super athletic guy Blake Burke.
That is a lack of knowledge right there.
Super athletic guy, Adam Dunn swing. No, I'm saying in terms of aesthetic.
No.
I'm saying in terms of
aesthetic. Steve, pack it in and pack it up. Jordan, this is a fascinating line
terms of
baseball knowledge right here. Okay, why don't you educate our dear donkey?
Also, here's why this is so wild that
now I do want to say in my defense, I got to say this right here,
and then I'll roast you. Defend yourself.
When I think of Adam Dunn, I'm thinking of my experience of seeing him, which was in a Nationals uniform, I believe. It's way different. Different experience than I'm sure most.
That's fair. Here's what I'm going to say. Two things. I don't know if this makes it better or worse. Adam Dunn, looking at his Baseball Reference page. What's his nickname? We all know.
I know.
It's Big Donkey, okay? Now, this might be you projecting your own lack of athleticism onto somebody else nicknamed the Big Donkey, which is fine. However, Adam Dunn was a freaking quarterback, okay? Adam Dunn was he is an athletic freak, and while you're right, he stole two bases after he left Cincinnati and was gigantic. As far as like in-box athleticism, I don't think it is that different from Blake Burke, and that's not a bad thing. It wasn't quite as aesthetic. I understand it wasn't quite as smooth.
I would say that Adam Dunn, as a high school to / minor leaguer, was light years more athletic than Blake Burke.
Yes.
Adam Dunn, Steve, stole 24 bases in a season in the minor leagues. Okay.
See, that is something where if you look at Washington Nationals version, you cannot know that.
That's true.
But here is what I'm going to say, Steve, and this is why I am disappointed. There is no one on the planet with a higher responsibility to educate themselves on the history of the Big Donkey than the Big Donkey. And so I get blurred. I'm talking. I'm disappointed in you. I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. I would like for you next week to come prepared with another fact about Adam Dunn.
I'm fine with that
moniker. You need to know the legacy. That's all I have to say.
I'm fine with that. See, because that's a good point too, because my legacy is, hey, look, I think of it and no athleticism comes to mind. Zero athleticism comes to mind in association. And that's just lack of knowledge,
Yeah, and you owe it to yourself and Adam Dunn, to both.
I do. I do. I think the better way of saying what I said and the way to avoid all this is just eject the guy right off the bat. But also, I could have just said, look, his swing looks like Adam Dunn's, and it's very beautiful.
Listen, here's the other thing, Steve. I want to stay on the theme of home run, more to what Jake said. Okay, can we skip to Reed Spenrath before we go back to Caden Sorrell?
Yeah, he just missed it.
Click this one.
Just kind of, you can see he kind of got under this ball, Reed Spenrath. He's playing for the University of New Mexico, the Lobos, which they've been on the radar this season. I've been seeing a lot about them. And he hit this ball backside. Do we call this backside? I lose.
One second. So, first of all, where did you get the 526? So you tweet this out. You said, going to be hard to find someone hitting a ball farther than this Reed Spenrath 526-foot home run. Did New Mexico tweet that?
So you know how in the box score it gives you the game recap and like the scoring summary?
Uh-huh.
It said home run hit by Reed Spenrath, and then in parentheses 526 feet allegedly, close parentheses.
Wait, that's in the box score?
Allegedly in the box score?
or I don't know if it's the game recap or what we call this, but so this is a different version of it, but one of these things where it like has the little score.
But it was in there.
That's the box score, Steve.
Box score, yeah. So
it said allegedly in the box score.
I think it was the scoring summary. Here you go. This thing. Previously,
the play-by-play.
Wow. Yeah. Okay, so if you're just listening, it says it in the official play-by-play. Now, again, that is, you can edit that. Like the people who are running, who are like the stringers for these games, it's not automated. So show it again, Steve. What does it say?
Yeah. Previously this inning. But I love when they get unique with it. We've talked about it.
Left his bat at 109 miles an hour and allegedly traveled 526. Okay, this is absolutely incredible. So Reed Spenrath, who transferred from JUCO, A&M, TCU, he's been all over the place. Enormous. He's also very big donkey type, right? This home run, though, I mean, to Jake's point, right? Like, boys, here's the funniest part about this home run. All right, not just the fact that he kind of reaches out and hits it 526 feet. It's the pan to center and the state of the scoreboard is killing me.
Not great.
It's killing me because I believe they're down 22-11 in like the 7th inning or something. And it's like, oh, right. That's the baseball we're playing.
So sometimes, Jordan, you will notice sometimes that teams are selective of what clips they use. Sometimes they'll just use the ESPN screen grab. Sometimes they'll kind of crop, or use something different. And that was one of those times, where it doesn't matter what the score is because this should have counted as 2. And even if it did, it would not have mattered.
God damn, it's so funny, man. Holy crap. All right, let's go back to our last moment. Caden Sorrell. Am I Sorrell?
Yeah. Caden Sorrell just had a skill showcase real quick where in the bottom of the first inning against South Carolina, that fence is about 7 feet, maybe 8 feet high. It's a high fence. And he robs a home run, just a good, clean, pure robbery. Like when you're a little kid and you're thinking about robbing a home run, it looks exactly like that.
It was perfect. You're right.
Just beautiful. Next inning, outfield assist, guns down a runner, trying to stretch a single into a double. Just felt very perfect game showcase like. And, good for him. Good for him for squeezing one in, saying all the people who are like, oh, the showcase skills don't translate. He's like, hey, I'm just going to go have a showcase out in left field real quick.
Showcase skills do translate because you very often have to hit in 1-1 counts.
Yeah. Yeah, all the time. All the time.
On Caden Sorrell, quickly, I know he's only gotten like 60 or so at bats, but he's hit pretty well as well. He's fun for me because, he's a true freshman. Gavin Grahovic, I think he's obviously, he's got more playing time. He's been one of their best hitters. He was like, before his senior year of high school, Grahovic was like, there's no way he's making it to campus. He's going to be a first, second round pick, whatever. Bad senior spring or disappointing senior spring, he gets to school. Sorrell was sort of the opposite, not known as much. But then I remember like his senior spring last year, it was like, oh crap, like this guy might go in the second or third round. He was trending in the right direction. Oh wait, A&M might lose him. Oh, never mind, he gets to campus, and now they're both on the team, and they're both friends with Hayden Schott, who's friends with Stephen Schoch, who's friends with us. So look at them. And that's us. So
working out pretty well for them, if you ask me.
There you go. I've enjoyed his. I know it was rained out this week, but I've enjoyed his Fungo Golf cameos as well. So the Aggies are great, and also I'm just going to say it. I'm just going to go out of my way and say it. I think they're better than Clemson. I know they're still behind Clemson at number 2. I think they're better than Clemson. Yeah, I said
that's fair.
Sorry, that's Tigers. Fair. All right, Steve. Let's do. Give us your other ad read, and then we'll do Golden Spikes and wrap it up.
Yeah, I'll give you another ad read.
I just want
talking about Tigers, about Aggies. I don't know how to transition into cooking either of those, because ethically, I would not do it. I would not barbecue either an Aggie or a Tiger.
That's good. Thank you for clarifying that.
I don't think it would be fair for me to eat a Tiger. If I can't kill it with my bare hands, why would I eat it? That's not fair. But anyway, baseball barbecue started when a broken grill fork and a cracked bat came together to make a perfect grill tool. Now, Baseball Barbecue makes patented bat handle barbecue tools and cutting boards that are licensed for the best teams in college baseball. Fun and functional, Baseball Barbecue products are perfect for casual baseball fans and serious grillers alike, and a great way to out-tailgate your rivals. Visit baseballbarbecue.com/D1Baseball to find the perfect grilling gift for the college baseball fan in your life. Thanks, Baseball Barbecue.
Thank you, Baseball Barbecue, for sponsoring the Schoch Factor podcast. We now move on to our final segment. Let's keep this short before we do our players and pitchers of the week. The Golden Spikes midseason watch list, which I know Steve is heavily involved. In fact, Steve personally picks every player. It's all up to him. They say there's a panel. They say there's a whole. It's just Steve. Steve is in charge of all things college baseball. I heard he's thinking about actually moving the College World Series to North Carolina, where he lives, just for convenience. So again, Steve is in charge of everything. Obviously not. That's not the case. But Steve, you are now at least tangentially involved and are aware of the Golden Spikes kind of progression as we move forward. And we have the updated list. I know like 20 or so new players got added. A couple players fell off, which is fine. That's natural. That happens every season. But I just want to boil this down to a very simple question. Statistically, Charlie Condon and Travis Bazzana are kind of in a class of their own right now. Condon really had his own kind of lead. He's, of course, leading the country in home runs. But we are barreling towards a very similar debate to the one we just had in Major League Baseball with Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani, where you have one offensive player who is so overwhelmingly dominant and amazing and historic and all these things. And then you have someone who is doing both at a nearly as good level, but not quite as famous. Now, in this case, it's a little bit different because Cags is not on the Angels. Now, he was this past weekend. He was this past weekend. But in general, Florida versus Georgia versus Oregon State, it's a little bit different in terms of the team situations. What I throw to you, gentlemen, let's say they both continue to just be essentially this good or around this level. They're both in the SEC. Bazzana, let's put it aside briefly. What do you think is going to happen here? What do we expect? Who would you expect to win the Golden Spikes if they kind of continue on with what they are doing? Steve, you first.
I don't know if I can say who I expect to win with confidence, because either one, it's like, makes sense. Like either one I see get it. It's like they made the right choice. Condon's numbers offensively are absolutely insane. The fact that Jack's having success both on the mound, and I know this weekend was a rough start.
Again, he did his part still. I know the start wasn't as good.
Yeah. Hitting wise, great. See, that's the thing. Even a bad weekend's a good weekend when he's there, because the hitting piece is there for him. But I think what it really boils down to is, team success. Which team is going to be more successful? Which I hate when it comes down to that, because it's like I want it to go to whoever, is the best player. But I feel like the best player is going to be on the team that has more success, because, why wouldn't they be?
So what's useful here is, I'm not going to go through all the numbers, but I am going to definitely track this a little bit closely. We do have some precedent here with two-way players winning, right? We had AJ Reed at Kentucky.
That's what I wanted to say.
Brendan McKay.
It's more normal here in college baseball than it was at the big league level.
Mm-hmm. Oh, right. In terms of precedent. Yes, that is true.
Mm-hmm.
And, if you look at the numbers, I mean, man, AJ Reed, holy crap. It's like, I know he didn't have the best pro career, but AJ Reed, not only did he hit 23 home runs, he threw 112 innings, which Cags is at like 35 innings. So here's what's interesting. Here's where I'm going to put Bazzana back into the discussion. I could see a situation where Bazzana and Condon essentially cancel themselves out. This is totally unfair to them, where voters are like, I can't pick between Bazzana and Condon, so I'm just going to pick the guy that does both and also has a 1200 OPS. I don't know if that's fair. I don't know if that's fair, but I could see that happening, because this is not going to be easy. Because Bazzana, by the way, especially over the last couple of weeks, has now, and I know the competition not quite as good as what Condon's going to face and is facing. But, I mean, their OPS is almost identical at this point. I know, and it's not that far behind homers. So I'm just fascinated. I think this is going to be I'm so excited to see how this kind of goes over the last month.
Yeah. Now, to be clear, when I said that's fair, I was just saying I understand why you're saying that. I don't think it's fair to them. But the one thing I can guarantee you is people are going to be upset on Twitter. That's the one thing. And all that means is there's a lot of talent in college baseball this year.
Good problem to have.
People care about it. So
I agree.
It's a good thing to have.
I totally agree. All right. Now, enough of these mainstream stat padding superstars who are about to be first-round picks. Let's talk about our own personal players and pitchers of the week. Jake, why don't you start us off since you are prepared this week?
I will begin with my pitcher of the week, Daniel Egan at Presbyterian. Jordan, is this someone you know about?
I do know about him. I don't know if I've actually watched him yet. I know he was the number one. He's basically the best prospect in the Big South, and his numbers are pretty crazy. But that's kind of all I got.
So even though he was the best prospect in the Big South, a glance at his career numbers would not highlight such a status, because prior to this season, his freshman year in 2022, he had a 7.63 ERA in 40
at Presbyterian.
Innings. At Presbyterian.
Yeah.
Last year, he had a 12.10 ERA in 9 innings.
Oh gosh. That's not
okay.
Good.
Not good. This year, he has a 1.56 in 34 innings with 65 strikeouts in 34 innings. And over this past weekend, Mr. Daniel Egan went out there against Radford, threw 7, punched out 14, and allowed just 1 earned run. And as someone who had his own come up very late in his college career, I can appreciate someone who was ass before being the good kind of ass. And so Daniel Egan, you are my pitcher of the week.
That is a fantastic pick. Trying to get a little bit more background on like what happened.
What is the deal?
Because it seems like he pitched in the Appy League last year, and maybe, so like in the, I'm looking at the Big South preview, junior right-handed pitcher Daniel Egan is 95 to 97, has 4 pitches. Like, oh, okay.
Okay, but like they weren't good pitches apparently last year.
Can I also just, while we're on the topic of Presbyterian, their best hitter is named Joel Dragoo.
That rocks.
Which is just an awesome name. And he's also like a sneaky draft guy that I want to know more about. So Joel Dragoo, Dragoo. I want to know more about him too. Anyway, Daniel Egan, great pick. Steve, who's your pitcher of the week?
My pitcher of the week is going to be Jacob Ellis from Lamar, who this weekend against McNeese threw 9 innings. McNeese gave up 0 hits, 1 walk, while striking out 9 batters, and gave up 0 runs, all that stuff too. The only reason it wasn't like, oh, this guy threw a 9-inning no-hitter, complete game no-hitter, went 11 innings. The game went 11 innings before it was walked off. And so he was just credited with being part of a combined no-hitter. But that is super impressive. When you hear combined no-hitter, you do not think, oh, that gentleman threw 9 innings of baseballs today. You think, oh, that gentleman threw probably exactly less than 9. So very cool for him. Wish they could have, done it in 9, but hey, look. It got done. Got the job done. He still walked away with a win as a team.
That's a great pick. That is a very, very good one. All right, my selection is Derek Clark. Last week, I talked about seeing Tyler Sawsville at Xavier, a very short left-handed pitcher. Derek Clark is listed at 5'9". I don't know if he's 5'9", but who cares? Because D2 transfer, was one of the best pitchers in D2 over the last few years. This dude... Again, I'm surprised this hasn't gotten on Jake's radar. 3 straight outings of 9 innings. Now, one of them was an extra inning loss against Oklahoma State, but he went CG shutout this past weekend against Kansas at Kansas. It seems like he might have been injured to start the season because he didn't make his first start until March 8th. But he's been amazing for them. I mean, he was amazing on the Cape last year. Clearly not throwing very hard. I have a feeling it's a change-up situation, but he's been outstanding. So, we love Blaine Traxel last year at West Virginia, but JJ Weatherholt is back, which is very exciting. He looked good over the weekend, and now West Virginia is now there. They could make some noise. Big 12 is wide open. I would love to see them make a run.
Yeah, so Derek Clark, believe it or not, the D2 he was at was the same D2 as Cam Schulke.
Wow, yeah.
Have those guys coming at you. That's not fun.
Man.
But what I met him over the summer up in the Cape, and what I liked about him, I believe he was with the Orleans Firebirds, which is sponsored by Marcus Stroman, which his apparel line is height doesn't measure heart. So having a guy who's 5'9" and an absolute dog on the mound in that apparel made me very happy. Like, it was like, this feels like a phenomenal fit. I don't know if it's planned, but it works.
Totally agree. Derek Clark, we salute you. Player of the week, Jake, go ahead.
Not really a player. I mean, I will get to a player here eventually, but I want to start with a different player. Old friend Matt Masciangelo, who snagged headlines early on this season for being a baseball magnet, not a magnate, a magnet. He was hit 8 times over the first weekend of Sac State's season against, against Loyola Marymount, right? Mm-hmm. Since then, he has only had 8 hit by pitches. He had as many in that first weekend as he's had the rest of the year. And now what that means for this conversation is that he has tumbled down the national leaderboard.
Oh, no.
Pitches. Matt Masciangelo is sitting tied for 11th. 11th.
Oh, whoa! That's talking about choking. This is like the
gosh,
blowing a 3-1 lead. I mean, what?
I know. I mean, he was light. This is tortoise in the hair type shit. But I am instead going to shout out our new overlord and national leader, Luke Beckstein from Northeastern, which is the perfect place for a hit-by-pitch national leader to be playing, because if you think grit and grind, you're thinking Northeast baseball. And when you think Northeast baseball, Jordan, specifically Boston area, what do you think about? Boston area baseball. Well, all the best players just go play for Kansas State for Pete Hughes. Well, Luke Beckstein did that and then transferred to Northeast.
He was at K-State?
There's nothing more Boston area baseball than going to Groton School, which is like one of the big prep schools up there, going to Kansas State, saying thanks but no thanks, and then going to Northeastern and racking up a bunch of HBPs. And over the weekend, Luke Beckstein, Stein, who knows, racked up 5 hit by pitches to put him in the national lead, all against Towson. So shouts out to Luke Beckstein, our new leader, our new overlord. Keep sucking up those pitches. He's at 22. JT Landwehr at Mount St. Mary is at 19 alongside Cade McGee at Texas Tech. Cody Watanabe at San Francisco has 18. That's kind of where we're at right now.
Watanabe is fun.
Wait, hold on.
Think about.
Isn't that Masciangelo's teammate?
Who?
He got passed by someone else on San Francisco that has more? Or
no. Sac State.
Sac State. I apologize.
I do the same thing. I get those.
Get your head out of the gutter, dude. I don't know if you know this, Jordan, but Sacramento is not in the Bay Area.
Yeah, well,
but they do have similar colors. I think that is really where you get thrown off.
Steve, that's true. They do have the same colors. Thank you. That is validating. Player of the week, go ahead.
Player of the week. I'm gonna throw you a curveball because I picked someone different than what I put in the doc. But I'm going with Nick Kurtz from Wake Forest. Have you heard of him?
No, that's good. That's funny because of who you put in the doc. But go ahead.
Just a little juxtaposition after further research, where Nick Kurtz went 7 for 11 with a double and 5 home runs. Only one single. It's like, hey, look, singles are lame. Do the one single, get it out of the way.
here's the thing about this. Nick Kurtz, against all odds, but again, it's hard to deny because he was not very good for a while, fell off the Golden Spikes watch list for the midseason. And he was like,
but
I'll take that so personally, and I'm going to take it out on the poor Virginia Tech Hokies.
Yeah, Nick Kurtz is off the list, but if you look closely, I think Nick Cahelfie is on the list. So when he's all together, it's like, wow, okay, yeah, there we go. That'll work.
Nick Cahelfie.
Yeah, it's a silent H.
You're right. No, great. What a bold under. You don't often get to pick the underdog like Nick Kurtz and Wake Forest, but you did. All right. Jake, you kind of went with the theme here in terms of picking a national leader, and I'm going to do that as well. My player of the week is Marshall Toole. Marshall Toole, outfielder at Wofford, is a perfect 27 for 27 stolen bases this year. He has a steal in, I think, the last 4 or 5 games, had a bunch more hits over the weekend. The Wofford Terriers, right?
That feels right.
Yeah, they're the Terriers. They lead D1 baseball in batting average ahead of only Virginia. And they're second in steals behind VMI.
Yeah, VMI is I went to the Virginia Baseball Coaches Association to talk over winter, and the VMI, one of their coaches gave a lesson on stealing bases, and mentally I was like, if I hear that they're stealing a lot of bases, I'm going to think this guy is smart. So I'm going to give him a shout out on the next podcast, a formal one.
Well, so VMI has stolen 107 bases, caught 30 times. Wofford's stolen 93 bases, only caught 12 times. So impressive right there. And Marshall Toole, who also has a 1235 OPS. Listen, I know small ballpark there. More walks and strikeouts, 27 for 27 steals, and just seems like a super fun player. Exactly what you expect, a little bit smaller slash and dash type, but very fun. So Marshall Toole, I salute you. And if I just jinxed your perfect stolen base run, I sincerely apologize. Gentlemen, we did it. We did a podcast. Jake, I will tell you quickly, since we haven't updated this in a while, the teams draft, we drafted 10 teams out of the top 25 and some teams beyond. Jake has made an incredible comeback after a horrible start and has actually passed me. So Team Jake, on the back of a pretty strong run from ECU and Tennessee and Northeastern and Oklahoma State recently, has vaulted past my squad, at least barely. So Steve's still way ahead so far, but we're still in this. And of course, the ultimate winner here is going to come down to our success in the postseason. So we'll see what happens there. It is funny that Steve, here's a fun fact. The teams Steve took first, and again, the draft, we weren't picking from everyone. It was from quadrants or whatever, groups of 5 in the top 25. The first team you picked was Florida. They have the second most losses of any of the teams you drafted.
Yeah, I've been trying to keep them ranked and instill confidence in the players. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, well, we'll see if they can balance back. But anyway, all right, boys, this was really fun. This was a great podcast. It's good to be back. Good to have you back, Jake. I love the morning edition. I'm sure Mike Rooney will appreciate it as well. Steve, close us out.
Well, we did it. That was an hour. If you're tuned in at home, an hour and 3 minutes. Mike Rooney gives the official guess of his time at the start. I'm giving my guess of the time at the end at 1:05. I think that's when I will nail this intro. We're at 1:03:15, but I'm cooking the books. I got a lot of money on this being a 1:05. So we're just going to let it run out. Just kidding. Thank you, of course, to our sponsors, Soldier Sports and Baseball Barbecue, for making this all possible. To have the Schoch Factor podcast on the D1 Baseball Podcast Network in the Sirius XM Sports the podcast group thing. Not sure the official terms. Still waiting for communication on that one. But thank you guys so much for tuning in to the Schoch Factor podcast. It was a great week of college baseball. Let's have a great one next week as well.